When I wake up in the morning, need something that'll satisfy this empty feeling gnawing at me, reminding me my life is dry. Some people say I do a little too much. Others say I need to keep.
And my brother just, he's got this degenerative disc disease, and he knew that he only had so much time, and he wanted to get all these riffs out of his head and played by a real band. So a buddy of his found this guy who was an old Green Beret who he had a 100% disability. He got blowed up in Serbia. Somebody didn't like the truck he was in, and he was banging drums as therapy. Anyway, they got together and started playing together, and they kind of jammed together pretty good, and they looked at me and said, "We need a bass player." I said, "I only played trumpet in high school." So I learned to play bass for these guys, and we started just jamming, doing these riffs and putting stuff together, and after about 3 or 4 months I'm trying to put together some lyrics and realize, well, we suck. So he came in, and immediately we started putting lyrics and melodies to what were just guitar riffs. So instead of, I'm just playing bass, so we're talking about basic thumping the E string. Oh, maybe the D, maybe the G, occasionally, do something like that. And Jimmy comes in and starts adding melody and adding really good lyrics. Like we got a song, Dark Waters. He's going, I got it, I know what we're going to do.
It was called Gray Matter before, if I remember correctly.
Gray Matter? I got it. Anyway, so we're just kind of jamming, strictly garage band stuff, but it got a lot better because now we had lyrics to the songs, and they became songs, intros and outros. And then Jason came back from overseas. He'd been in the Air Force, and I think he put, some contractor offered you a lot more money to do what you were doing as a sergeant?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Anyway, and something about meeting this beautiful woman, and she was a Filipina, and I had to go to the Philippines, meet the family, get married, all that kind of stuff. And while he was there, take some courses at the School of Music. Anyway, he walks into the band, starts throwing a few riffs up, and everyone's going jaw dropping. Yeah, you'll do.
Yeah.
Well,
he's adequate.
And that takes the band from garage band into, holy cow, this is good stuff. Yeah. Intros, outros, and he and Jimmy immediately started fighting with each other, so we had something great.
Yeah. Actually, the way the story really went was he came into John's place, and he picked up Tony's guitar, his dad's guitar, and he just thrashes it. And Tony is excellent. Tony's amazing. I love Tony. But Jason came in there and said, all right, time for 11, however you want to think about it. Just tears it up, right? So yeah, he kind of puts that down. He's done with that one. So he walks over to Gus's bass, and he just starts, King's X or Chili Peppers, I got nothing on him. He just everything you could possibly imagine. And he walks over to the drums and played those better than anybody played them in that drum set's history. And all three of those guys are looking at each other. He walks over to the mic, he starts to sing, and I go, I'm safe,
And that's kind of where it went. My brother, of course, by that time, he'd pretty much accomplished his goal, which is, he'd had a series of personal disasters, which basically meant all he had left was his music. So he wanted to leave his son with his music. And his back was really getting bad. He even went under the needle, which was something he hates to do. So he bowed out and just said, that's it, I'm out of here, I can't play no more. And John was having the same kind of problem. I mean, this is a guy who had been Green Beret, Special Forces, doing things that we'll not talk about today, but he was in Serbia somewhere, and he got blown up, and ended up with, especially was about 60% damage to the left side of his body. And although he loved to drum and he loved to jam, he just couldn't keep up with going from garage band to the next step. And so we moved on from there. But we went from in a garage band into let's do music by combat veterans, for combat veterans. Nobody was doing it. I mean, that's when we kind of looked at each other. And I look at these guys, I'm going to see my brother's 100% disabled, John's 100% disabled. These are guys that can jam, but they're not able for their physical disabilities to go to the next step. We go, well, let's do music by combat vets. Combat veterans. Let's see, is that country? No. Hip hop? No. You know, what? Rock, hard rock, metal. And that's where we are.
But now it's Judgment Day, and when I need to stay low, 'cause there are bags to play, and now it's Judgment Day.
We said, what are we going to call ourselves? And 100% disabled, 100% disabled. I'm only 20% disabled, so I'm okay.
Led Zeppelin was already taken.
Yeah. So we're crippled, right? Everybody's crippled up. And there's some great music comes from these crippled guys. And what do you call a bunch of infantrymen? Yeah, they were scouts technically, 19 Delta, 3 Bravos, 19 whatever, Scream Beret, but we're all infantry, all of us. Well, infantrymen back in World War II used to be called dogs. Dog faces, dogs, whatever. And the term is still used within even though it's not in use anymore in the public, it's still in use within our little community. So we thought, Krippled Dogz. Spell it with a K and a Z just because we're ornery and obnoxious. So Krippled Dogz kind of came, we thought about it, we thought, this Krippled Dogz. Everybody's crippled up, we're all a bunch of dogs, we're writing music by combat vets, about them. You know, and Jimmy, he wasn't from a combat vet, but you know, he came from he was a army brat.
Mm-hmm.
So he grew up in that family.
Military's in a family.
Oh yeah,
in a family.
What, you born in Germany?
Yeah, Lynchville, yeah.
Yeah. So
it sets us apart from all the other bands. If nothing else, we didn't have the word black or metal or black metal within our name.
Yeah.
But every band has its story. Some even not so good. This one's great. And, you know, while you didn't personally serve in the military yourself, you know, Gus did, Jason did, the history's there with the band.
But he's the Air Force guy, and he's the only combat vet amongst the three of us.
I was going to kind of get to that. That's kind of funny, but, you know, in the name itself, this almost becomes like a tribute within the name itself. A tribute to those veterans that did fight, did serve, and now the lyrics that you guys write, is it a tribute to them, or is this still something that you draw from yourselves personally?
I would say, well, I'd say yes, right? Gus is right, and I'll let him answer his personal for sure. But I'll tell you this: whenever we perform in front of a military group, and we've done that a few times now, and that's really, if we know it's something that is for the troops, I mean, we're there, and they get it. They get the name. You don't have to explain it. You know, they understand exactly what you're about. They get the songs, and which is kind of something that's sometimes hit or miss when you're doing all original music. You know, because the advantage is they've only heard it for the first time, right? So if you do something wrong, they got no clue, right?
Yeah.
Unless like Jason turns around and like, dude, and then yes, we've worked on that. But they get it, every song. They're in on it. They'll interact with you. Hey, I'll come at you after the. When I heard that lyric, that was me, and they'll tell you their story, and it really hooks in. But Gus, I mean, for him, I get the personal part of it too. So.
Yeah, I was never in combat, but I mean, my first platoon sergeant was a platoon leader, platoon sergeant in Vietnam, and he taught me how to be a platoon leader. He taught me how to do that. So I learned I went to Ranger School in '78, with guys like no-go Kendall. He looked at us and said, "I hate you guys. You're all going to fail." And he did. He failed everybody.
That's awesome.
He just did.
Yeah, did you agree?
I wonder who gave it back, but freedom is never free. The memories of me, explosion, silence, and screams. I exist where demons
Lyrics
dream.
came from John Lively. Okay, and he was the one who saw probably, well, he did see more combat than any of us. He saw face-to-face combat. Okay, he was Special Forces. And that was his, he went from being regular Army, a misfit, the kind of guy that got into a lot of trouble, a lot of fights, and he was about ready to get kicked out of the Army before some sergeant major, who he had no clue existed in life, came up to him and said, "Hey, asshole, instead of getting thrown out of the Army because you're a jerk, come work for me." And he brought him into that special, because he had some abilities and talents. And he brought him into that world, which taught him a lot of things that he hadn't been taught in the regular Army. But when you start going through that process, that was something that he said was something that, I didn't experience, so I don't know. Even though I was 26 years in the Army, I was never in a combat zone. But he said, you get shot at, and that was just his thing, is you just don't know. You know what bullets are for. It's for killing people. But you don't know. And so a lot of the lyrics in Trial by Fire came from his frame of reference.
Hey Jim, man, I really like what you're doing, that music, and I got this poem, man, and I've never shown anybody, but could you work this into one of the songs?
And I was like, okay, I'm sure it's like, rose are red, beer is cold, I'll sleep with you even though you're old, or something. It's what I was expecting. And instead, it started off with exactly the lyrics of Trial by Fire, which is, sometimes I stare at the stars, confused I made it this far. So I just stay in my hole, what comes next no one knows. And then when fire rains from the sky, I know I don't want to die, but orders attack my ears, I hit with all my fears. And those are I grabbed those verbatim right out of his poem, because they were just perfect. And this guy who's just seen hell on earth over and over and over again, but always a smile on his face. And so I took that and I said, okay, that's this song, it's perfect.
All the songs, however, are being used as part of a concept to paint a picture about a young man or even young woman, okay, who thinks they're a hot shot. They're just Billy Badass, and they go and they join the army. Then they experience combat for the first time, the realities of combat, and then from there, their story within the military is told further with songs like Judgment Day and Coming Home, when they're about to get back from overseas from their deployments. And then they start dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder, or just dealing with life. A lot of demons start coming in, and things really start to go downhill in their life. But things start bringing them back up when they start going to each other, what we call the military sphere, the military family. Friends, family, and fellow veterans, active, not, reservists, whatever. Everybody who's part of that sphere that someone knows personally gets involved, helps bring them back up, and knowing that, it's not so bad. You can go down, you can get yourself back up. So it really tells a whole story about somebody, and there's a lot of truth to it.
You play a lot of events for veterans. Can this be kind of therapeutic for them in a weird sense?
It is, actually. I still talk to some buddies around in the Houston metal scene. I was involved with that in another band, and that's something that helps us out a lot. Especially those who, me, I was more of the rear echelon. I was just playing whack-a-mole, and I was the mole. Okay, I wasn't being shot with bullets. I was being shot with mortars and rockets, which can do a lot more damage. with a lot less aim. But there's guys who I know, good friends of mine here, who were right there in the face of somebody who shot them. People who had to deal with that stress in and out, and they just talking about it. They don't open it up to people who don't understand, who have no idea. So for them, it's they're holding it in until someone like me, at the very least, come and say, hey, you know what? I know what it's like to be shot at. Let's talk about it.
But you can tell their story as well.
Exactly, and that's where we get a lot of our inspirations, where we get a lot of the content to build upon is from other people, friends, family that had been there, and we go through, and no one works in a vacuum in this band. We all three of us work together. We take what Jimmy has for lyrics and we try to put it in proper context. We take the music that maybe I come up with, and Jimmy's got to work with it or tell me what needs to be changed. So we always make sure we got a product that we think can be understood.
Absolutely inspired by military life, not just combat, but if you listen to a lot of the songs, I mean, there's some there that are very combat specific, but some that are just life outside of combat, and even beyond that. They're not one-dimensional. What I mean by that is, the soldiers are not one-dimensional. They're not defined beginning and end by their life in the Army. Life was before it, life was after, and life was during. And, so in that, there's a lot of ability to relate to life outside of combat in a lot of the music as well. And, along the way, you speak about the therapy of it. I'm telling you, after you play and they come and it's symbiotic. I mean, they give you more and more and more to write about. Same things with John's happened to me at least 2 or 3 other times with other guys. Yep. This is my story. Can you put that to music? And the answer is always, dude, yes, because they're amazing. They're life-changing events, and you take that and you play it, it becomes something magical. They're not asking anything for it. What they really ask for is what I think this band does very well, is just for someone to listen. And we do listen, and then when we play it, other people listen, and it becomes something bigger than it could have been any other
It's
way.
almost like being a voice for those that are really having a hard time speaking for themselves.
Sure.
As I mentioned before, a lot of combat vets won't talk about their experiences with someone who hasn't been there, but they will open up to someone.
Sometimes I stare at the stars, confused I made it this far. I just stay in my home. What comes next no one knows. When fire rains from the sky, I know I don't want to.
That's the trick, isn't it? To some extent, I can't tell you how often when I first started and you sing in front of these guys, and there's nothing like it. We did a thing up at George Bush Park that was a tribute for, was it homeless vets? Is that
Home for the Troops.
Home for the Troops.
And,
Liberty Festivals. Home for Troops.
let me tell you, you had not seen that many amputated limbs in one day in your life, period. I promise you. I mean, just left, right, and center. And it was no doubt how that happened. You saw guys in wheelchairs, guys with just on crutches, or guys with prosthetics, all over the place. And so as you get up, you try to sing their story to them, and you're like, okay, dude, I hope I can bring this. I hope I can do this in a way that they go, okay, that's authentic. If not, you're not being sincere. And that we went out, we played the first song. I'd probably never known so nervous in my life. And the second we stopped, and it was obvious that the connection was made. From that point forward, finding the voice isn't that hard. You get those images in your head, and it's not like you have to psych up to it. Once they're in your head, they're in there.
Can't have a river without banks. We fight for a dream.
That evening, I'm winding down for my day. I'm just reading through, and I read that for the first time ever in our country's history, benefits were cut for troops while they were deployed at a war. And I was pissed. I couldn't believe it. I just absolutely. While you had a president up there saying, "I'm a pro-troop guy," I love this stuff. And you're like, wow. I mean, you say one thing, you do something exactly the opposite, and that's where Dark Waters came from. It came from anger, and if you hear it, it's probably the most jaded song we have. But it's just 100%, and it's not okay. We hate Republicans, we hate Democrats, we hate Tea Party, we hate Independent. It's we hate people who don't get up and do what they say on behalf of the guys that are out there where integrity matters. I guarantee you that the song I like the most is the one he likes the least, and I would almost say vice versa if I was to guess.
So what is it?
Which song I like the most?
Yeah.
I like Together Alone, the original one. I thought it was awesome. People love that song.
Yeah, they do.
And of course,
And we may release it as a separate, and we may release it later.
And if I was to guess on,
pop country.
yeah, all right. Well, which song? I know which one's your special joy to play.
My actually favorite one now, as long as it's done right, is One Dead. Which
One
you've heard a little bit of the recording of it. When it's done right, that's my favorite song because it's so basic, straight, hard rock. It's just that kind of stuff that just punches you right in the throat. And I love the lyrical content.
Punch in the throat.
Because it's just
Crushed tracheas. That was our almost.
Yeah,
That's that "Go Get You" song that you maybe kind of want to open with, then, right?
Well, it's not hard or fast enough to really. I mean, it's hard but not fast. It's a really mid-tempo type song. But the lyrical content's great when it's talking about a guy who's just out there describing what it is who he does in the army, and that is be a sniper. And great line in there is, "Was my first mission, it was his last. I have a future.
Yeah, I love
all
that.
he had was a past." And he sings it with such gusto. I love it.
And that's a song based on a story his dad told me about a guy that got killed while he
My
was serving.
son-in-law, who was a sniper.
Right, and
Oh
yeah, and that's one of those. It's so different. Every time we perform that song, the vibe changes in the show. But you're right. I mean, the lyrics had to play certain rules, right?
Because you could write a song that is very, depressing or bluesy that doesn't sound anything like blues. You can put that to a death metal song if you want to, right? Something like that, right?
That was really good.
Yeah.
Well, I used to play in a death metal band.
Black metal band.
So right there, you can already tell that if you only take one element of it, it's not it, right? But if you have the right kind of music and you got the right kind of lyrics going on, you've got a blues song. But nowadays, you can get away with the right kind of music and not the right lyrical content. You can write about how great your day was and put it to a standard 12-bar blues.
Who's the perfectionist of the group?
It's probably gonna be me.
Yeah.
But
Sort of.
To a large degree, compared to these two, yeah. I have a tendency to, because my job in the group is to look at the big picture as far as arrangement and how things are put together and how they're going to work together. I have to know, even though he will generally play the drums, I have to know what the drums need to be. I have to hear the ideas he's putting in and make sure that they're going to work. Now I try to be really cool about not dictating too much about what either one does, but sometimes there's certain things I'm like, look, you just gotta have it there. You gotta have this particular symbol here. You gotta have this kind of bass line here. Don't overdo it here. That sort of deal.
That's why you're not really that bad, because I'll sit there and go, is that okay? You'll go, did I say something? Did I tell you something bad? No. Was it all right? Well, that doesn't help me. Was it good, better, bad? Did I say I didn't like it? No. That's all right.
So it's kind of a mixed deal here. I'm really attentive to those things, but at the same time, if it sounds good and it works, well, why would I need to go in and start impregnating my ideas and replacing?
But how tough is it for you? You know, because I think about it kind of like an OCD, just band specific, musically specific. Okay, you're pointing to Jimmy, but how difficult is it for you when you have something in your mind, and this is for all of you, when you have something in your mind and you're saying, no, this is how it should sound, this is what I feel.
See, and that's just it, you know, and Jason is anal. I'm not going to take anything away from his behavior, but I am just as anal, but I come at it from a different side. One thing is, I would say Jason's anal about different areas of the song than I am. I am very, very anal about how the voice sounds, how the lyrics sound, what words are used. You know, by the time I've rewritten these songs at least 5 or 6 times each, and not just in the words, but in the arrangement, the feel, what we're trying to accomplish with it. I'll tweak and I'll tweak and I'll tweak. I'm rarely satisfied. We've got a great producer and he's really taken us up a notch. But I can tell you that, you know, when those songs come in, I listen to every little piece. I find little things in there that, you know, probably shouldn't even be found, but I can't help it. And that's just my nature. Jason is probably harder on himself than any of us are on ourselves.
You don't want to hold. Have a shine to see, 'cause you never know this world is meant to be. Your dark world is bold. Have a shine to see, 'cause it shines.
I only started that really with Together All Alone, this last song, where I'm listening, and Jason's kind of, I could hear him kind of struggling because I played with him long enough now to where, one, when we just jam, I can sense where he's going with it just because he's got certain habits. But on this one, I'm going, you know, this sounds very much like this song that my instructor showed me. I just started messing around with it. And then Jason said, that's it. I'm going, what's it? That's it. Well, what did I do?
Well, you know, in that,
And then he remembered what I did that I didn't remember, and then we just worked from there.
But Gus has been dedicated to his instrument for 4 years. I mean, he practices on it hours every day. He's taking lessons from multiple people. He's constantly online. He's the perfect guy for our manager because, I mean, he plugs at it. You know, he never once lets up, and that's been the glue that's really held us together.
Could you imagine you guys playing without each other right now? I mean, if there was if Gus wasn't there, Jimmy wasn't there, Jason wasn't there, it just wouldn't be the Krippled Dogz, right? I mean, there's something special in terms of, obviously, yes, the military history, the background, but just the fact that you guys can play off of each other as well as you do.
Well, I'll put it like this, you know, we're down to the 3 people who really care about this. That's really important. When you have people who don't care, who are not into it, who don't have that internal investment, they don't perform as well. It's like an implicit thought process they put on themselves, that implicit barrier that they're not going to reach the potential they need to be to make this go forward. Because they just don't care for it as much as the 3 of us have. That's what I was saying. We've had people come in and out, but now it's down to 3 people who are capable and who care.
I'd say the primary focus, we are very focused on this album that we've been working on. We've gone through 2 different studios and have just poured ourselves into each one of these songs individually. Now our focus from the beginning and continues to be the voice of the soldier, and Gus has been excellent in, you know, making sure that anyone who wants us to play for them understands that, you know, that's our primary focus. It's almost the first question almost always asked, which is, you know, is this a benefit in any way for a veteran? You know, and if that's the case, then we're a totally different band in how we approach it. You know, we typically don't even charge for those things. You know, we'll just show up and we'll play. We'll show up early, we'll stay late, and it's about that experience. You talk about exposure. You know, the idea is that now, you know, hearing the songs and the way they sound, and they sound amazing. You know, it's about getting that now out. As far as it can go is great. You know, as far as, you know, is this going to be our livelihood or anything along those lines? I don't know. We're all open to it, I think. I'm definitely open to it. You know, these guys are, you know.
I love to do it. Just
Yeah,
for a living.
yeah, and that's it. You know, whether we get to the point where we're having people separate M&Ms in our bus or whatever, you know, that works out to be that's entirely different.
It's almost borderline obsession. I'll tell you like this, like every morning, for the last maybe half a year or so, when I'm in my car going to work, I've got our songs that we have, and I have a few demos that hopefully will entertain for another album. But, you know, that's what I listen to in the morning on the way to work, all the way from Katy to Stafford. So, you know, you're talking about almost a good hour if traffic's forgiving. For me, I sometimes am thinking about, okay, you know, this is my dad's legacy. And from where I come from my Air Force rearing, excellence is something that is our core value, and it's been ingrained in us. I can't let that go, even with my whatever job or whatever I do. If I'm going to do something, and there's an expectation right here, I'm going to take it here. For my dad, his legacy is, you know, oh, I got a band playing my riffs, you know, riffs that me and him we used to play together when I was a teenager learning to play guitar. No. Slowly, I've been bringing it up here. I'm going to keep pushing it as far as I can because I just can't settle for just meeting somebody's expectation. That's one element to it. Another one is because of what we are, who we sing about, the veterans, their friends, their family, everybody in that military sphere I was talking about earlier. You know, it's important to be a voice for them because nobody else really is. When Slayer writes a song about the Eyes of the Insane, when he picked up a newspaper and Tom Araya is like, you know, reading about soldiers with PTSD and all that. And he got a Grammy for that, by the way. But he never served. No, none of the band members of Slayer served. Nobody in Metallica served. Anthrax. A lot of these metal bands that try to sound brutal and hard, talk about war and all this other BS, they've never been there. I've at least been there. I have people who've been a hell of a lot worse situations than I have. The least I can do is be an authentic voice.
Brothers born for adversity, from the burning sands to the shining sea.
We can continue to improve, continue to learn, and it's fun. And that's the key. It's got to be fun. Is it fun, guys?
100%.
If
It's not fun, don't do it.
If it's not fun,
It becomes a chore.
don't do it. And that's what's great about retirement is in the Army I did some things, mostly what I didn't want to do. Now that I'm retired, I can do what's fun, and music is fun.
Permission to walk around, I can't wait to wash my own dishes, which is a weird thing, because, the military, they don't do that, right? That's one of those things, contractor job these days.
I want to wash other people's dishes.
It's just, I want to get back to normal, how that works out. And there's stages of that through that. And it's a strange line, but yeah, most the military guys get that stanza more than pretty much anything else we sing.
Wanna wake up when I damn well please and walk around without needing clearance. Can't wait to eat whatever wanna eat. Can't even wait to wash my own dishes.
One of our objectives as an organization is we want to be able to get money to put into other veteran-themed organizations like Wounded Warriors and Home for the Troops, the Combat Vets Motorcycle Association, VFW, American Legion, more as we get in contact and we can make establish a relationship with. We want to be able to funnel some of the money to them, because we're only going to take what we only need. We're not here to try to build mansions and have 16 cars and have drug dealers on speed dial.
Gus spoke about playing with his wife. I play with my kids. They've been taking guitar lessons, piano lessons. They play on the drum. They sing. And that's just an absolute blast. As Gus stated, that's something you do the day you die. And something when your kids say, "Hey, Dad, come in and hop the drums. I want to play the song with you." And that's just, I'll tell you, it's fun. And and they love our music. And that's a lot of fun for me when they hear it. They know who the Krippled Dogz are. They've seen us play. They're blown away by it, and that makes it more fun. They wear our T-shirts. They do the kinds of things that you would expect a fan club to do. And they're all in on this. And so it takes time. And so you talk about the two sides of it. It takes time. I try, and these guys have been so great with me as far as being able to do things flexibly, such that I can maximize the time with my family and still commit, wholly to the set of projects that we're biting off. But if I hadn't have done this, none of that would have been there. They may have taken a piano lesson here or there, or something along those lines, but we wouldn't have been the musical family that we have become.
Just on the road, on a heavy load, thinking about any place but here. Miles from home.
I've always been supportive for Music Ventures. She's been supportive of me, but she's been a moderating force. Because I will have a tendency to be like, "Oh, I want to play in this band, I want to play in that band," and it doesn't work out because you only have so much time and energy. I got to the point where it's like, you know what? I gotta stop. She's right. I need to stop because I don't have enough energy for this band. And if I don't have enough energy to focus on this band, how much energy do I really have for my family? I can't compromise my family. My family that's the cool thing about it. Family comes first.
That's right.
Then the band
is first.
So
Coming home. That's what it's all about.
So she's been a moderating force, and it's been for the better. I've been very thankful for it, and I think I've been a better person because of it. And I think the band has been a lot better off because I'm focused on this one thing, this band and our label. We'll pull it all together.
It's a great story. It's a hell of a band. It's a hell of a purpose that you guys have. And motivation and inspiration and all of that. And I mentioned it again, at the end of the day, that's what you guys are, in tribute to and for, is all about. At the end of the day, you want to be able to come home.